Hi, so today I'm going to teach you about how to use the motor encoders. So basically what the motor encoders do is monitor um, how far the motor has rotated, and how they do that is that they wait for the motor to reach a target value in its rotation, and at that point it stops. The motors should be stopped. So that explanation is all on good, but let's look at practically how this turns out in code. So first off, we're looking at the tutorial code from the last two tutorials I've posted. So we're gonna comment out this chunk of motor code just because it's gonna change slightly and maybe I'll, just to make the distinction slightly more clear, I'll do sort of a header comment, or basic drive motors code, and then up above here we're gonna add in the drive motors with encoders code. And we can use this with PID control, so that'll carry over. Okay, so now first what we are going to do is go to Motors and Sensors Setup and enable the encoders on our drive motors if you haven't already, by checking the boxes for the encoder motors. Apparently they're already checked, so we don't have to do this. Okay, so now we are going to write the actual code. Now, first thing you want to do when using the encoders is set them both to 0. The reason being is that the motor encoders have a set range, and if you go past that set range, that's not gonna be good for the encoders. So you should always set them to 0 first thing in your code, so that you're not messing them up. So basically how you do this is you do n motor encoder, and then the open square bracket, and then the name of the motor. We'll start with motor E just to change things up, and then equals 0, and then semicolon, and then the same thing for the other motor. Okay, so now what you're going to do is set the motors to whatever power you want. So let's do 40 again. just because and then what you're going to do is you're going to do a while loop. So while, and then open parentheses, and then end motor encoder, open square bracket, and then in this case we're going to do motor D is less than, let's say 720, and then close paren, and then open curly bracket, and then close curly bracket. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to keep running through this loop while the motor encoder on motor D has not reached the value of 720. So, and at that point, when it does reach 720, it's going to exit the loop. And so at that point, what we're going to do is set the motor powers to 0. So that's one way we could do the motor encoder code. There is also another method to do implementation of it, and basically how we do that one is, again, we're going to set the motor encoders to 0. And then there's this handy little function called motor encoder target that we can use to set the target value. And then basically do that for one of the motors, and then set the motor powers again. And then while loop, and then open paren, and then end motor run state, and then open square bracket, name of the motor, and then not equal to, for not you do the exclamation mark, and then run state idle. So basically what this while loop's going to do is when the motor encoder, what end motor encoder target does is when at the point when the motor encoder reaches our target value of 720, it's going to enter run state idle. So at that point this loop will terminate. So basically it's pretty much the same idea as the code, the first code I showed you, just slightly different syntax. And then of course you set the motor powers to 0 again. And that is how you do the motor encoder code.